What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Well-Rounded Individual. I am your host, Adam Schindler. Guys, thank you all for being here. If you are clicking on this, please click below, click that subscribe or follow button. The more we grow this show, the better guests and just the better product I get to bring you. Today, I have an amazing product, an amazing guest. It is exciting. He is a Fight Circus MMA star. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He trains here out of Las Vegas, out of one of the best gyms in the world. He's got 5 professional wins over the age of 40, which is nearly unheard of. Everybody, welcome to the show, King David MMA.
Let's go.
Let's go. What's up, man? Thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. And, you know, people may not know this about you, but you're quite the MMA veteran as well. I see you fight for Bellator and Strikeforce back in the day. And those are very high-level promotions. So you were operating at an elite level.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people, especially out here in Vegas, because I haven't been fighting since I've been out here, don't know that about me. So, yeah, that's something new that I can bring to like a new audience as well. And, you know, that was something that I fell in love with as well. And that's something that I think you and I like can get along right off the bat just because we have that common thing in play.
Yeah, if you got a cauliflower ear and a Jocko shirt on, I'm like, okay, we ride together. Let's
we just
go.
become best friends.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, no, I see the execute going on. I used to train with Jocko in San Diego, and it was interesting because this was before his podcast. So there were like whispers in the night, right? Of like, hey, Jocko's coming back to town. Jocko. Yeah. And I'm like, who's this Jocko dude, right? And people were like, dude, you don't know Jocko? And Jocko, bro, have you met Jocko? Right? And I'm like, what is going, there's like this groundswell at the gym happening at Victory MMA in San Diego. And I was training with Jeff Glover at the time. He's a black belt world champion in no-gi. And it was just like, everybody was talking about Jocko. And then I met Jocko, and I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense. Jocko's an extremely intense dude, and he's not like amped up or anything. Yeah. But he would just walk right up. He's like, hey, because my last name's Balea. Hey, Balea, are you ready to get after it? You know, and it's just like full on in your face eye contact, and you're like, let's run it, you know? And then, you know, he's a black belt. He's a multimillionaire. He's a best-selling author. He's got one of the most downloaded podcasts on the planet, you know, and he's a consultant for like Fortune 50 companies. Yeah. And it's like, I got to step my game up. Yeah. You know, and so just being around a guy like Jocko, it was like super inspirational. Yeah. So that's what I took away from all that. And
that's one thing that obviously I'm a member of the T-shirt club.
Right.
These T-shirts are only available to those who are. And that's one of the things that I love most about him is that he is so intense, but he's so calm about it.
Right.
And he's direct.
Right.
And it's no bullshit. And I can get down with that.
Yeah. And so like as we're listing his credentials, I completely left off that he's like a Navy SEAL and a Navy SEAL commander. Yeah. Right? Like that's how extensive his resume is that like, oh yeah, that too, right? So yeah, Jocko's the man. I miss that guy.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And it's such a cool thing to like have a mentor like that and to be around a person to put you into a place mentally of like, oh, look at all the things that actually are possible. Right. Not just possible for someone who like I see on television or something, but possible for someone who I interact with on a day-to-day basis. But before we dig any deeper, I do have one question I always ask the guests. Right. First question of the show, with it being a well-rounded individual, what are some attributes or characteristics that you would say make up a well-rounded individual?
Right. So I would say that a lot of people excel in one area of their life, but there's like almost glitches in the matrix to everything, right? So if you can find those glitches in the matrix, you can get more of like a 80-20, like the Pareto principle in different areas of your life. So if you focus on the 20% of health that gets you 80% of the results, you can have like, you know, as a dude, like 10% body fat fairly easily. Like if you move and like eat clean 80% of the time, but 80% of that food will be from 20% of the products you can purchase, right? So if you stick to like steak, eggs, fruits, vegetables, nothing processed, you're going to get like a really good result. And some people are trying to like over optimize in one area when they could just do like 80-20 across like 10 different fields and then, you know, really extrapolate their quality of life happiness you know, into the stratosphere. Like even with like, let's say dating, right? Let's say you're a single guy. Okay, go take a picture with a professional photographer and then like run that through AI real quick to make you like 1% more handsome, and then have a funny bio. And then like, instead of trying to figure out the magic pickup line, it's like, have a cool life on top of that, and then your dating will solve itself.
Right.
If you eat clean, your body will over time solve itself. Right. And so I think if you focus on the 20% of things that cause 80% of results, you'll probably be off to a good start and being well-rounded.
I like that. And what I'm hearing you say too is like, try not to be a jack of all trades, but really focus in and become a master of a few that cover everything else.
Right. Yeah. So for instance, I love martial arts. So I'm laser focused in on martial arts as my one thing that I'm trying to over optimize. And then everything else is 80-20, right? So I found the one lane where I want to get like 100% results. And then the other lanes are like 80-20 results. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you get those results through the one lane that you really care about, the other ones just kind of fall into place most of the time.
Right. Yeah. So like my roommate, he's a pro fighter as well. And we have a hard time not going to the gym. Yeah. So yesterday I did 3 practices.
Yeah.
So today I'm going to go to wrestling practice at Extreme Couture with the best fighters on the planet. It's an extremely intense practice. And I'm going to be like, dude, I only did 1 practice today.
Right.
So I'm probably going to end up lifting or running sprints tonight, right? Yeah. Just because it's like, it's such a habitual thing that's built into you after a period of time.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of people may not understand in the beginning of their journey, is that like, how you feel right now isn't how you're going to feel a couple years into this, where it's going to be a complete 180 and you're going to be like, dude, I love the gym. Like the pump I get, or I see you running a lot, right? A runner's high, right? Well, at first you're not going to get a runner's high. You're going to get runner's sore ass legs and lungs that feel like they're on fire. But you know, if you keep sticking with it, pretty soon you might become a different person that actually enjoys that activity.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I always tell everyone. When they ask me about running, I'm like, the first mile always sucks.
Right.
But the 4th and the 5th mile, that's when it kicks in. You know what I mean? And once you build up to being able to do that, that's where the real benefit comes in. You know, and then, you know, people like yourself that are doing 3 practices a day, and when you do 1, you're like, oh, I haven't done anything today. And that's so much more than 99% of the people on earth have already done. But it becomes your new normal. And once it becomes normal, it's easy. That's why you're like, oh, it's easy. And people think you're just like another level human being, which kind of you are.
Well, so it does make it a little hard to date sometimes, because like, let's say you did 3 practices, or maybe you ran, you know, 5 miles today and did a CrossFit workout, or what, like all this crazy, you know, physical stuff. And then you come home and then someone's like, oh my God, I had such a hard day at work. I'm so tired. And you're like, what did you do today? And they're like, well, you know, I worked from home and I was on, you know, support chat for Zoom for like an hour. I'm like, dude, like, I can't stand. I'm taking a shower sitting down, right? Like contemplating my life. Like, why am I doing this as the water's hitting me from above, you know? And so sometimes everybody's where they're at on their journey. And you got to remember that before you start like losing compassion for people's struggles.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And it's hard to see how hard some things that are easy for us are for some other people. But one thing that Joe Rogan always says is, he's like, the worst thing that in your life that's ever happened to you is still the worst thing in your life that's ever happened to you. Right. No matter whether it's like war or my bike got stolen. You know what I mean? Or my friend's mad at me or whatever. But it's just different levels, and eventually that levels up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like if you were a baby in a grocery store and your mother walked away from the cart, like your baby brain doesn't know that you didn't get abandoned in the Amazon rainforest, you know, back in the tribal days. And like in a caveman society, being left by your parents was like death. So that baby's brain is processing like a near-death event. Like, and then later, that baby has trauma that it doesn't even understand. It's like, dude, why do I have trust issues? It's like, before you can remember, you were left at a grocery store by a parent and you thought you were going to die. And now it's got like this subconscious program running in your brain. You know? So
that's crazy how like just the human brain over evolution has become. And a lot of people have never even like taken the conscious thought to think about that either.
Yeah, and so that I believe that's what's happening with our political process right now, is that there's essentially two groups of people, right? One group of people believes in, let's say, some form of societal security and internal dependence on oneself. Like, things are possible. I can do things. And another set of people is like, everything's scary. The news scares me.
I need a protector.
I need outside security.
Yeah.
And then they're like, hey, guess what? We're coming to help you. Yeah. We're the government. You know what I mean? And so like this group of people, through a caveman brain that was created for us to stay alive in a tribal society, now cannot even process factual information because that's not relevant to staying alive in a tribe.
Right.
If you were a person in a tribe throughout history, right? If you didn't agree with whatever the tribe said, you might be exiled, right? Yeah. And then that's death.
That's death. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So your brain is optimizing for synergy with the group, and the group that scares you is doing bad things to you, and your brain is processing it like, this is the group that's going to protect me, even though they're doing bad things to me. This is all happening subconsciously, right? I need to agree with them with sky's green, you know, like 4 plus 4 is 25, right? Like whatever they say, you know, boys or whatever, you know, like anything that they say, you just agree with,
right?
Because that's your sense of security on a subconscious, like, keep my biology alive, and your biological brain is processing it.
It's a survival tactic.
Right.
And, you know, it's so interesting to think about that. Like, what in life, going back to the baby scenario, what in life has led half of the country, 150 million people, down one side that is cool with that, and the rest of us that are like, whoa, what is going on here? You know what I mean? Like, and there has to be like just a series of events that have happened throughout life that, you know, it's like a bell curve, take you one way or the other way.
Yeah, and so I've thought about that, where the fundamental difference seems to be that one group of people are identifying with more of a victim mentality, which is perpetrated by the news. I'm not saying that these people aren't actually having bad things happen to them.
Right.
But there's
probably they are.
Right. And then there's another group of people that are like, hey, bad things happen to me, but I'm a victor.
Yeah.
You know, and
this is an opportunity to overcome.
The more society and the more the media caters to a victim mentality, and they're pre-programming people from children now to be victims. Hey, it's your race, it's your gender, it's your this, it's your that, it's what you came from this, you came from that, you did this, like, and then victim. By the time they're voting age, right? They're like, dude, I'm afraid of everything. I'm a victim. Things can't be fixed. There's no ability to use your own merit to get out of a situation. The only answer is government intervention, right? Yeah. And some people would say that's being done intentionally.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
Right. And yeah, and like, then we even get into like merit-based, right? Like, so let's say someone wants to run for, you know, an office of government, and they want to do it based on merit. Like, hey, I've created a business. I grew that to be a successful business. Here's how I can grow the American economy. And then there's another group of people that want that same political power, right? But they don't have the merit to get it. So then they have to use political operations and fake news and deceit to try and secure that political position that they want, which is all bred into us because in biology, we're trying to go through a hierarchy to have the most ability to mate.
Right. And as well, right, do you think that because they've gained in that hierarchy without the hard work and rather with tricks and politics and things like that, they're more willing to not be satisfied with that level and continue the tricks to the top?
I would say
rather than like the hard work that it takes to really get there.
Yeah, if you're operating in, let's call it, instead of a merit-based infrastructure, if you're operating in a political-based infrastructure, the only way to the top, it's either merit or it's not. And if it's not, so like now we're going to get like spiritual, but like in a lot of religious texts, they say God is the truth, right? And one can interpret that literally, like everything true is real and everything not is borderline satanic, right? Because the devil only comes to deceive, And that's what the political infrastructure does, is it takes things out of context. It clips something before the actual main thing was said, and then they say the person never said the main thing, and you know, very fine people. And it's like, dude, listen, Obama's a very charismatic dude. Yeah. Right? And he's very intelligent. He knows that's not the context of that quote. Right. And he was saying that as early as 3 days before the election still, when he knows from the day it was said that's not the intent.
Right, right. But this is the thing, is that like with society and with culture, everyone's so used to like 7-second TikTok clips that it's easy to deceive people that don't take the time. I have conversations like this a lot, like because I run so much, I don't listen to music, I listen to podcasts. So I listen to long form discussion from people who are known truthful people, that I understand things in a different context than a lot of people do. And a lot of people just don't take the time to figure out what's what anymore.
Right. So, yeah. So I've noticed a similar thing where people don't have as much information, but they're extremely certain about their opinion based on incorrect or inadequate information, to the point that there are people arguing with Elon Musk on Twitter. Like, I don't think Elon's very smart about this. And I don't think, dude, Elon has proven himself to be the most capable person on the planet. Yeah. So there's
so many different realms.
Right.
Too.
And so like, if I disagree with Elon, I have to check myself and go, he's got better sources of information. He's got more information. He may have AI already implanted into his brain. Who knows, right? Everything he does, he's successful at. I need to filter my own thought process through this person may have better information and made a better decision than I did right off. My feeling tells me this right off the jump. I'm going to trust it. Like the ego it takes to think that's more accurate than the smartest dude on the planet who did research on this subject and has excelled at everything he's ever done and is the most capable person in history. But you had a gut feeling? Like, come on.
You know what? How that, when you have gut feelings and you act on them in nature, if you're a lion, you get killed.
Right.
Instead of assessing the situation and making a decision based on what's happening.
Yeah, like if like let's say you're a mouse and your gut feeling says go get that cheese, you're in a mouse trap. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's better to assess things, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you don't have the time to assess, then you know, because humans are social creatures, right? So there's firsthand experience and then there's secondhand experience, right? And we can learn from both. So oftentimes you can't learn or know everything. There's trillions and trillions of things happening at any point. So your brain literally has to selectively focus on what's important, right? And then if you are subconsciously programmed to be a victim, you're going to find things that align with that. But as one way of breaking free of that, you can also find someone who is like an Elon, where you can default some of your judgment to and go, hey, I don't have the time to research this, but I'm pretty sure this guy did, right? And if he's coming to this conclusion, then it's highly likely that that's the most likely scenario.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what I think too. If I don't know about a subject, I look to the smart guys.
Right,
the guys who are proven smart. Because there's nothing more dangerous than a really confident, incorrect person. Right. So someone who's super confident but not right, they'll bang their head against the wall all day long, blind leading the blind.
Yeah, so there's a phenomenon called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is you're too stupid to know you're stupid. So you think you're intelligent and then you're highly confident, right? And so like this person who's very wrong is very confident and other people are pinging off them going like, oh, that person's confident. If we're in a car, oh, it's a right turn. No, I think it's a left. No, I'm sure it's right. I'm sure it's right. So everybody in the car agrees with the right turn. It turned out to be a left. But the person that was like, oh, I think it's a left, that person didn't say it in a confident manner. The wrong person was more confident, and then everybody went in the wrong direction.
Confidence will take you a long way.
Yeah, so.
Even when you're wrong.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, here we are. And so let's talk a little bit about MMA.
Yes, sir.
Too. And so I think as well, just like, you know, obviously you're a super strong-minded individual, but you've also been doing the hardest sport ever created for the last 16 years professionally.
Correct.
And that really, I think, allows people to move into that category of merit-based hierarchy, like
Right.
ascension, right? And you've done it for a long time, and you're still doing it at post age of 40. What drives you with that? Like, obviously you're in great shape and you love it, but tell me about that. Tell me about like just like the mindset that you have to keep going when most people can't and won't.
Right. So the mindset that I have curated over time to be able to compete in martial arts after the age of 40 at a professional level is essentially what is the minimum effective dose, right? So like Tim Ferriss talks about minimum effective dose. Like, let's say you're going to take vitamin C. What's the minimum effective dose of vitamin C that's going to prevent scurvy, right? Or whatever. It could be anything. So what are the minimum effective metrics that I need to be able to compete in martial arts? So like, let's say an arm bar takes 200 pounds of force at the wrist to be able to break someone's grip. Is my body capable of generating 200 pounds of force at the wrist to be able to break someone's grip? Yes or no? Now, that doesn't matter if I'm 25 or 45 or 18 or 28. Either I have the minimum effective metric or I don't, right? And in my current state, I am strong enough and athletic enough to be able to compete with these people despite a number on a piece of paper. Right. And that's the metrics I'm looking at are what do I have to do physically and able to be able to perform with these people? And if I can meet those metrics, then the only thing left is a skill gap. So if you are equally as strong as someone and they're beating you, oftentimes they have techniques and tactics that you don't have. Right. That's different than not being able to perform the deadlift of 300 pounds or whatever, right? So in the event that you can hit the strength metric or the cardio metric or the VO2 max, and you can have a baseline to be able to perform these activities, then what you should be focusing on at that point is acquiring more skills and techniques and tactics. Yeah. And that's how I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I was thinking about as you were answering me. I was like, going to say like beyond the physical, right? Beyond the physical, do you think that experience play like beyond physical and beyond skill? Do you think experience and strategy plays into your advantage because you've been in the game so long?
1000% experience plays into every aspect of the game. The easiest way that I can explain it is the difference between strength and conditioning versus efficiency, right? So let's say you can crush me on strength and conditioning, right? You could do 40 pull-ups, I can only do 15, okay? Or you could do 200 push-ups, I can only do 78. Well, if we're in a situation where I'm pushing with my elbows flared, that's gonna cause muscular fatigue. But if I have my elbows extended and then someone's pushing into my skeletal structure, that's more efficient. I'm not using as much muscle. So I can hold that frame much longer than if there was a slight bend in my elbow, right? This can happen anywhere, right? So if I'm in a kickboxing situation and I am, let's say, across the cage from someone, there's no need to be tense, right? So understanding that I'm not in striking range with this person, there's absolutely no need to be on high alert. Right. That can let my adrenal and my cortisol lower, and I can have more endurance and energy just by being more efficient. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, energy management.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes, so if you look at like a guy like Sean Strickland, who's a UFC world champion, if someone watches him from the outside, they go like, dude, he's not being athletic. He's not doing all these fancy techniques. It's like, but he's had so many punches thrown at his head. Yeah. He knows exactly where he's at, right? And then he can just walk forward. When someone swings, he takes a half step back and then he walks forward and he takes a half step back. And he can beat guys that are much more athletic than him because he's much more efficient and effective.
Yeah, isn't he the least hit person in at least, maybe the whole UFC, but at least the 85 division?
So they bring in, I'm going to call them UFC scientists from the PI, and they give guys mouthpieces where they can track how many times they've been hit on a computer. So at Extreme Couture, there'll be UFC professionals with computers tracking the UFC fighters' brain damage, essentially, right? And yeah, they said that Strickland was the person who spars the most, yet is hit the least out of anybody that was on the roster.
Yeah.
So
that's a great
right.
thing to be able to attach to your name, not just for like clout, because that is
Right.
quite impressive, but longevity as well.
Right. Yeah. And then it's so then if someone was on the outside observing it, what appears to be the correct strategy, right? The Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje point in the center and just throw and go crazy. As entertaining as that is, that might not actually be what fighting is at the highest level. And what fighting might be at the highest level is a lot closer to what Strickland is doing, which doesn't necessarily involve as much athleticism as one would think.
Right.
It's the experience that you're talking about, where one person has sparred tens of thousands of rounds and another person has sparred a couple thousand rounds, and there's all these micro adjustments that are happening subconsciously, and there's nuances that are happening with like, hey, do I lean my head back over my hips, or do I take a rear step, half a step back, so that my foot and my hip are still behind my head, right? And to the outside observer, those two techniques look the same, but there's actually a difference in the ability to be mobile, right? So
yeah, the big difference comes in just like those tiniest of areas,
right,
as well. Awesome. Yeah, I love that, man, and I love to hear that too, because I didn't know like they were like tracking that for data, but also that's super cool to know.
Yeah.
Tell me about Fight Circus.
Bro, Fight Circus is the craziest thing I've ever been a part of in my entire life. The best way to explain Fight Circus is that there are different rules in Thailand, and Fight Circus has not been to America yet.
Okay.
So they are enjoying the freedom that Thailand provides.
Right.
And Fight Circus literally had a transgendered, now female, formerly male Thai fighter. So it's a little boy who grew up fighting Muay Thai,
right,
and then transitioned to becoming a female.
Right.
So he's in Thailand, they call them lady boys.
Yeah.
So this lady boy is fighting grown men Muay Thai fighters and winning fights.
Yeah.
Right. So
I've seen documentaries on that.
Yeah, so it's the craziest thing ever. They have Blob Tang, who's 300 pounds, and he is a Muay Thai specialist. And he smoked cigarettes on the way to the ring. He went super viral. 50 Cent shared him. Snoop Dogg shared him. He's got a few 100 million views based on they downloaded the videos and shared them on their pages. And it's an interesting thing to really watch, like a 2-on-1 fight in person, where there's two people really trying to fight another guy. And like, how does the one strategize to fight two? Right. If that makes any sense. So they have 2-on-1 fights.
Damn, I didn't know that was part of it.
Yeah. They had Rampage Jackson and Bob Sapp actually tied together in one t-shirt, and then they fought another two men, John Nutt and somebody else, in another. So there was 2-on-2 fights. There's 2-on-1 fights. There's Lady Boy versus, I guess Natural Boy or whatever you want to call them, fights. I was in Fight Circus as a pro wrestling pimp who was fighting a little person, and that little person was also quote unquote a pimp. Yeah. And he's listed at like 3'2". And that was an interesting thing because, you have a crowd of people and people, oh, it's just pro wrestling, right? Dude, have you ever tried to interact with someone that's 3 feet tall, right? How do you pro wrestle with a 3 foot tall person, right? There's limitations on what they're able to do. Right. So, I'm in Thailand with a full on leather trench coat in 90-degree, 90% humidity. I've got a blonde wig on. I'm doing front flips and, all kinds of crazy shit. I lost 6 pounds of water weight just from sweating through the leather jacket. And then this little dude, he's got a scepter, right? And we're doing a stunt at the end where he hits me with the scepter. He breaks the scepter on my head and I'm bleeding through my blonde wig, right? And then they're like,
real blood.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, why did you hit me with that, bro? He's like, oh, you said make it look real, So that was quite interesting. Fight Circus is off the chain. They're coming to Las Vegas. We're looking at January or February. I heard a rumor that there is a TV deal involved that has just been offered. And by the time that it hits Vegas, that TV deal should be intact, which will probably be on a major streaming platform. Right. And when it comes to Vegas, what they're doing is they're having streamers, the top streamers on the planet, are all getting booths around the Fight Circus ring. And then they're going to be going live on Twitch, on Kick, on all streaming platforms, in addition to the live event happening on the major streaming platform at the same time that, you know, I'm
so there's not going to be restriction around who can stream like within the building.
No, so it's gonna be a crazy viral event, and anyone that pulls up is encouraged to wear cosplay because everything's interactive, right? So the ringmaster in the middle of the ring is interacting with the crowd, but the better your costume is, they're actually going to bring people down for better seating. So if you're dressed more cosplay like, you can get preferential seats. So you might buy a $35 ticket in the nosebleeds, and you might end up in a $3,000 VIP booth because you dressed like some crazy outfit. So Fight Circus is going to be off the chain.
That sounds a lot more entertaining to me than Slap.
Well, listen, man, they are they have a similar product to, so Power Slap is super viral.
Right.
So Fight Circus, instead of doing Power Slap, they did Ultimate Dick Kicking, right? And they got UFC legend Matt Brown to officiate the Ultimate Dick Kicking Championship, where it's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah.
You got two guys,
Nut shots,
two dicks, two shins, and they're going to go till one man quits, right? And so, yeah, nut shots, full shin to ball sack, dick kicking, right? For fun and profits.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Matt's probably got the best position in that whole thing as the referee and not the participant.
Yeah, they call you, hey, we want you to do dick kicking. He's like, what? They're like, as the ref. He's like, all right, let's go. Yeah.
That's hilarious. So do they have like a venue or anything yet, like set up?
Yeah, so we're touring venues. We've already toured one. I'm going to tour another one with them on Friday and then another one on Saturday. So right now there's like 3 or 4 venues in town that are looking at picking up the product. But the main thing is that they do have an offer from a major TV company going on. And so we filmed an entire Fight Circus with full, they flew 70, 75 people out to Thailand from Hollywood. So there was a full production staff.
Oh, wow.
I'm walking down Bangla Road, which is Walking Street in Phuket and Patong Beach, which is the craziest street you've ever been on.
I've been there.
Okay. Yeah. So
it's insane.
You're a guy, you know, you get physically assaulted by women in the street.
Just grabbing you, pulling you in a bar.
Yeah. So I explain it to people like this, like, hey, I got non-consensually masturbated 3 times in the street through my shorts just walking down that road.
Yeah.
That's how crazy it is. They just grab a handful of meat and they start trying to drag you into these bars. And so I'm out there in a full leather red trench coat, blonde wig. I've got snow goggles on that are bedazzled, right? And I'm walking down Bangla Road. They've got red cams on me, which are like $35,000 a piece. I've got one of the top directors in Hollywood yelling at me. He works with models and actresses and like the top supermodels on the planet. And he's telling me to walk better. You know what I mean? And he's like trying to show me how to walk. And I'm like, dude, like you direct, like, let's say Victoria's Secret angels on how to walk. And now he's telling me how to walk. And I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to enjoy this street. But we shut the whole thing down. The whole street shut down. People were taking pictures, cameras out, and it got really, really out of control. That one has not been released yet. Yeah. That's what's going to be released onto TV.
Yeah.
Right.
That's dope.
Yeah.
How long were you in Thailand?
We were out there. The total trip time was 2 weeks. We were in Thailand for 12 days of that.
Nice. Yeah, it was funny because I spent a couple months back in like 2010.
Okay.
I was training at Tiger Muay Thai in Phuket. And we went to Patong and to Bangla Road. And how I explain Bangla Road to people, I'm like, it's kind of like if 6th Street in Austin and Bourbon Street had a baby with prostitution.
Right.
And it's insane.
Yeah. It's hard to explain to anyone in America what Walking Street is, Bangla Road, because there's not even anything similar to it out here.
Yeah.
Where even the frame of reference of like what we understand as men and women, and in America there's trans. Out there it's not like that. It's like there's men, there's women, and then there's ladyboys. Yeah. And the ladyboys are separate, right? And if you walk up to a woman and you are unsure, you can literally ask her like, hey, are you ladyboy? And she'll tell you.
Yeah, and it's like encouraged to ask.
Right, yeah. Like, so the culture is please ask so there's no confusion and there's no problem.
Right.
And they're like, don't mess with the ladyboys if you don't want to mess with ladyboys. And the ladyboys won't mess with you. And it's very, very different than America.
Yeah.
Where even the prostitution out there, it seems to create a culture of more happiness with wait staff, right? Where like the waitress is genuinely more friendly because there's not guys messing with her all the time, trying to like, hey, sweetie, come back. Yeah, because the guys can just go down the street, do whatever they got to do, and then they come to the restaurant for food instead of making.
And she's the waitress, not the girl you're trying to pick up.
Right, exactly. Right. It's so the whole culture is different. It's. I would recommend anybody go there just to see a different type of life.
Oh yeah, man! I came back. My whole perspective on the world. That was the first time I'd ever traveled internationally, and my whole perspective on life changed whenever I came back to America. And it's funny that you said, like, because when we were at Tiger, the best guys, the best fighters, the Thai fighters out of there would smoke cigarettes every day.
Right.
Every day. Like, I would watch them smoke cigarettes, then get on their motorbike and drive to the it was at Bangla Stadium. Okay. Have you ever been there? It's in Patong.
Right.
And then knock someone out, like another day in the office.
Right, yeah. So I went to Thai fights out there. I don't think I went to Bangla Stadium. So sometimes I didn't know where I was going. It was like a group of us were like, hey, we're going to these Thai fights. And then we would just show up somewhere. And it was interesting because people were getting like head kick knocked out, like nothing, and then like just dragged out of the ring. Yeah. You know, and they had the announcer on the side and he was like, oh, head kick, hey, you know. And so they have like a narration happening, which is different than what goes on in America. And so, that was fascinating to watch. And then the lack of empathy or just the lack of like, oh yeah, you got head kick knocked out. You know, like in America, it's like a big deal. Like out there, it's like, oh, next fight. Right? You know,
definitely not the first time it's happened.
No, and then the other place that I went to that was very, very culturally different than America was I went to Turkey, which is a 95% Muslim country. So when I left New York, right, very American, and then you land in Istanbul, right, and they're like, don't make eye contact with the women. And you're like, what? And they're like, no, seriously.
You're like, I'm programmed to do that.
Yeah, they're like, you're an American. Do not make eye contact with the women. And then obviously nobody speaks English. Everybody's smoking cigarettes in the airport, which is not permissible in the United States. You're like, well, I'm in a different place. And then there's these, like one guy with like 4 women behind him, and it's his wives. You know what I mean? And then and you're like, dude, I am not in America anymore. It was very, very different.
Was that Istanbul?
So that was Istanbul, and then I ended up going to Antalya, which was more of a tourist city. It's on the Mediterranean, and so there was a lot of like rich, overweight Russian guys with like young 18-year-old girls. And then even that's culturally different, right? Like in that society, like women are encouraged to marry on status, right?
That's how they get hierarchy.
Right, yeah. And it's like, that's totally normal for like this overweight 55-year-old man to be with like an 18-year-old smoke show who looks like she could be a supermodel, right? And that's like, that's who that girl's looking for, and that's who that guy's looking for. And that culture encourages it. So whatever your predisposition is in America, it's like, you're not in America anymore, bro. Stop trying to project your values onto this other society that has its own values.
Yeah. And you know what? That's something that I think that, you know, we always say like the Americans are the best and everything. One thing we're not the best at is traveling. Right. Because I think, I read a stat, like in 1992, 4 or 3% of Americans had a passport, and now it's still only like 30%. Okay. And so we're super like, we just don't understand if we don't go and experience, you know what I mean? And like, I think that comes to a lot of closed-mindedness on every different spectrum of people here as well, just like not like being worldly.
Well, even locally, right? Like I was living in San Diego in a place called Ocean Beach, which is the hippiest place in America. There's literally people doing like handstands on the beach and drum circle and hula hooping, and they live in rainbow vans. They're intentionally homeless. And I had a condo that was 140 steps off the sand. Between my condo and the sand was a parking lot with rainbow vans in it. And they were like, hey man, how do you like living in that box, man, paying all that rent? You know, we live closer to the beach than you do, brother. Why don't you step out of your comfort zone and become one of us? And it's like, I'm looking at them like, they're making a valid point. Like I'm paying rent to be further away than they are, and they have total time freedom. And then you leave a place like California, which this was going on during the lockdown. So I was living in Vegas, I visited LA, and then I went to Florida, all within the course of like 2 weeks. So Vegas was like, kind of open, but like socially distance, but wear masks unless you're on Fremont Street, and then you have a bottle of liquor, and then you don't have to have a mask on. And then you go to LA, and it's like, stand back, stay 6 feet away, keep your mask on outdoors. And like, they're literally like yelling at you to stay 6 feet away, like, you're gonna kill everybody. And then you hop on the plane, you land in Florida, and they're like, what's the Rona? And you're like, what? And they're like, dude, we're a free state. And you're like, what? And they're like, yeah, we haven't had that for a year. We've been open for a year. And then you fly back to Vegas and you just see it's like, oh, wait, now we're back to social distancing or whatever, right? And it's like, it's interesting how arbitrary, and that's one example, but like culturally, right? Like what you wear in San Diego isn't necessarily what's hot in New York, right? And the New York outfit isn't hot in Vegas, and the Vegas, you know, fit isn't what you would wear in San Diego if you wanted to be like, in terms of fashion and assimilating to the culture. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's why I seen like videos that like people that go to San Diego State and be like, is it like normal for like girls just to wear bikinis or everywhere? Right. Like on campus. And I was like, oh man.
Well, so when I moved from Vegas to San Diego, I was more entrenched in the Vegas lifestyle. Like I was dating a stripper, and you know, I had 2 girls living with me at the same time. I was out of my mind. Anyways, I leave with one of those girls to San Diego, and I couldn't process. I'm like, why is no one wearing shoes here? Everybody's in flip-flops. What are they doing, right? And it's like just beach attire. There was a place in Ocean Beach called People's Market where shoes and shirts are not required. So I then, once I realized this, like to get out of my own mind, I was like, I'm going to go to the grocery store barefoot with no shirt on, just in swim trunks. And then I'm walking around like, this feels different, right? But it's like just getting out of your comfort zone, walking around the grocery store barefoot, right? Like, oh my God, right? You know? And so a year previous to that, I couldn't even have processed that. But then having done it, I'm like, it's not something that I would recommend, you know, but it's just a different way of being. Like these people are way less uptight, you know, and that's just 4 or 5 hours away, let alone flying to Thailand or flying to Istanbul, you know? So yeah, I would encourage anybody to get out, travel, see different things, get out of your comfort zone, check out the other culture, see how people are living.
And understand when you go there, it's your responsibility to learn and adapt to what's going on. Because you're the only one that's not going to. If you don't, you're going to be the only one that isn't.
So when I went to England, right? I left England from Vegas, and Vegas is very showy, right? Like if you go to XS nightclub, girls are dressed to get attention. And then boom, I'm in London where everybody's in like a black coat and like riding boots. You know what I mean? And that's the play. Like they're all battling the weather. Everybody's got their head down, the wind's blowing on them. They're holding their black coat that goes down to their knees. Their boots go up to their knees. And it's like, everybody's dressed the same here. And I'm looking at them like, dude, these women should like dress better. And, and to them, they're like, those girls in Vegas, like are dressed like trash. You know what I mean? Whereas like, it's just so different. And that's one dope thing about martial arts is you can literally see the world. Like, I did 13 tournaments in 12 months when I was competing in jiu-jitsu in different cities. And every city's like its own little country. And you could just, oh man, that's how they do it in Phoenix. Okay, that's how they do it in Miami. All right, this is San Francisco. Okay, this is Oregon, right? And or you know, Portland or whatever, right? And it expands your mind. So anybody out there that's like, hey man, should I pursue this martial arts thing or not? There's a lot of benefits to it.
I always say yes.
Right.
You know, and it doesn't have to be one specific. I think that jiu-jitsu is probably the best for self-defense for anyone, especially women. But Thai, Muay Thai, I love as well. Boxing.
And we're talking about being well-rounded. It's the podcast.
Everything.
Go get yourself well-rounded. Go travel, see different cities. You know, like how close to a national park do you live? Right?
Very close here.
Go see it. When's the last time you saw it? Oh, never. Dude, you live down the street. When's the last time you went and cliff, like if you're in Vegas, when's the last time you went to Nelson's Landing at Lake Mead and jumped off a cliff?
Right.
You know, like straight, it's right there. You could go do it, you know. Even like the Bellagio Flowers in Vegas. When's the last time you went to go? It's free. It's a multi-million-dollar terrarium of like awesome floral botanical vines and experiences, right? And it's free. Just go, right?
Yeah, and it all comes back to getting out of your comfort zone,
right?
Doing something that is out of routine.
Right. Go round those edges off and be well-rounded.
I love it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So your last fight,
right?
Let's talk about it, because you were there, you're ready to go, and seemed like he just kind of didn't want to fight after like he felt your energy. Right.
So I pulled up to Oklahoma, which has great cattle. The steaks there are awesome. Yeah. The beef is delicious. No Diddy. And I liked Oklahoma. Yeah. The people there were very like, hey man, we like freedom, you know, and I rock with that, right? The issue is that I cut, a significant amount of weight to make 155 pounds. I pulled up, I looked this man dead in the eyes, and all of a sudden he couldn't find his medical paperwork. So the day of the fight, I rehydrated from 155 back up to 175. And then a couple hours before, like, we're headed to the venue, and they're like, hey, your opponent pulled out. And I'm like, what? And they're like, he couldn't find his paperwork. And I'm like, wait, so
that should have been taken care of yesterday.
I've flown to Oklahoma. Somehow I got my paperwork done. This guy has fought for this promotion before. He's fought with this medical commission before. He's fought for this licensing agency before. He's fought for their title before, right? And now all of a sudden, the doctor who lives in this town of whatever it is, 300 people, nobody can find this doctor. Nobody can find his paperwork. And all of a sudden he can't fight, And in hindsight, looking back, I was staring at him after the face-off, because they weigh you in and they put you face to face, right? And I'm just looking at him, and he said something bizarre to me. He's like, hey man, I'm not looking at you. I just don't have my glasses on, man. So, and I'm like, I'm gonna bounce your head off the mat. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's going on in my head. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, this dude thinks he can fight me. Like, I'm making up disrespectful scenarios in my head to get ready to go through with the mission.
You're about to go to it.
Yeah. And in my head, I'm like, my job is to kill him.
Yeah.
It's the ref's job to pull me off of him. He can take a knee at any time. He can tap out at any time. I'm gonna fucking crush his skull, right? And so, like, I'm just looking at him like, dude, you're dead, bro. You're dead. And he's looking at me like, oh, I'm not looking at you. And so, in hindsight, I think it had something to do with that. But he no-showed, so that fight never happened. I never got the belt. They said they were gonna bring me back to fight him, and we never heard back from him. Of course, and I'm sure he's probably got 2 fights in the organization since then, or something like that. But
so with that being the last one, what's next?
Yeah, so I'm ready to go. I will fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. Call my manager at Roman Athletic Institute. The answer is yes, right? He'll say, hey, I got to fight for you. I just say, forge my signature, bro. Right? And in my head, I can compete with the best fighters on the planet. The only issue is that there's a number on a paper that Sean Shelby doesn't like. He's the matchmaker for the UFC. When I was in the final round of the casting for The Ultimate Fighter, he saw a 42 on a page, and he said absolutely not, because they had put a 42-year-old on the season previous to that, or a previous season. That 42-year-old didn't perform well. But in my head, I'm like, the metric isn't the number on the page. It's your ability to execute techniques in front of a live audience, right? And there's some people that can do that, and there's some people that can't. And I feel that I am able to perform when the lights are on, when everybody's watching, when all the pressure is there. When I got called out I was not in the UFC, and I got called out by a UFC current signed person. I'm a pussy, I'm a this, I'm a that. Oh, I just talk shit after my fights. I can't really fight. I'm not a real martial artist. All I do is pro wrestling. Okay, bro, right? Well, then let's scrap, dude. But I want all the lights. And he's like, let's fight in the parking lot. I'm like, no, bro, not in the parking lot.
Free.
Right? Dude, I want the pressure. I want the cameras. I want the lights. Let's make it mean everything. If I can beat you, then I stay in the UFC. If you beat me, you're cut. Let's talk to Sean Shelby personally and set it up, bro, if you want to run it. And then, oh, no, he wants to, let's fight outside the bar. Anyways, he's back fighting outside a bar now. He got cut. But that's neither here nor there, right? My point is that, like, I want to see what's possible.
Yeah.
What I want to make history, right? Like, I'm 43 years old right now, right? I'm extrapolating out in the future. Can the best 45-year-old smoke the number 8 guy on the planet? Those are the questions I have in my head, right? Like, what level can I really take it to, right? Can I beat somebody in the top 10? Well, my training says I can, you know?
Because you're training with guys that are in the top 10.
Right, exactly. And so in my head, I'm like, okay, how far can I push it? And how much of this belief can I actually execute when the lights are on, when it's live, when there's a little 4 ounces, and when you can't get hit once because you never know what can happen, right?
Absolutely.
When it's all on the line, that's what I'm thinking about. So right now I've got Fight Circus. I love performing for them, but I'm still active and I'm ready to kick people's face into the 3rd row.
Yeah.
Right. So if they want it, they can get it. And I'm here to deliver in front of as many people as humanly possible.
Hell yeah, man.
Yep.
I love it.
Yes, sir.
Dude, I can't wait to watch you fight.
Let's go, bro.
Let's go. Yeah, man. Fuck, dude. That's awesome.
Right.
So what else? What else can we talk about? We got about 7 minutes left or so.
Right.
10 minutes left.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah. So like when we're talking about like what's possible, right? We've got Make America Healthy Again, right? And health and fitness is something that's important to both me and you. And so now we've got RFK pulling up with Donald Trump, Make America Healthy Again. And what a lot of people don't realize is that this stuff, there's actual technology that can help you age in reverse. There's something called 10X Health with Grant Cardone and Gary Brecka, right? And I'm adhering to that as closely as possible. So when people are talking to me about my age, I'm like, dude, my biological age is lowering due to 10X Health and what's going on with the emerging technology, right, of internal health systems, right? And so when we're talking about RFK is going to remove dye from foods, right? There's also like things that are happening with like enriched flour, right? A lot of people can't even process the enrichment that's put on in the flour, right? And so like if you remove that, you can reduce, let's say, your inflammation if you go outside and ground, right? And so there's like this infrastructure of people, not just RFK, but behind RFK, people that have spoke, you know, at the Trump seminars that actually own health companies that are actually helping people age in reverse. Dana White is on it. And if you've seen his transformation, he looks like he stepped out the hyperbaric time chamber.
He looks incredible. Like I remember when he started that, right? So there's a podcast that he was on. He's I forget what the name of it was, but he talked about his transformation. But I remember when he started, and I've seen his interviews on it as well, and saved his life, really, right?
Right.
Because didn't they say like he had about 10 years to go, and now he looks like he's got a 6-pack, he's jacked, and it's not just all about looks, it's about how you feel and how you look and inside as well, right?
Right. And so we've got Dana White reversing his aging. We've got Donald Trump out here saying he's going to make America healthy again with RFK. RFK has got a 6-pack, right? We've got Gary Brecka, we've got Grant Cardone, we've got this team of people who are changing people's lives through proper nutrition, training, and technology, right? And they don't pay me, right? Like, hey, listen, I love those guys, right? I'm not sponsored by them or anything. Like, they want to work a deal out, I'm here. But like, I'm just saying that like, this is just one aspect of what's possible, right? And so I think moving forward, there's going to be a new paradigm where like, what numbers on a paper isn't as looked at as much. It's not like, hey, man, you're 41 and he's 43. And it's like, what's your biological age?
Exactly.
And I think that's going to be a more important metric when we get back to talking about performance, right? Than like your chronological age, right? Because that's just arbitrary numbers.
Yeah.
You know, but there's people that are like, you know, I dated a girl one time. She was 19. She was a real estate agent and she was the #1 salesperson in her company. And then I dated a 35-year-old woman who was borderline like homeless, who can't get it together. So it's like maturity is different than age. Biology is different than age. And so I think that while you can look at someone's age, it may not be a one-for-one indicator of their ability to perform.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And I think that this is probably the best thing that's happened to America in a long time, as far as like changing the health and the focus of changing the health of everyone from top to bottom, from old to young. The one thing that I think is going to be a bit of a challenge, not for them to implement like what they want to do, but to get people to comply, because it's about playing the long game and it's about doing the little things that aren't easy.
Right. When that's how I got started, right? I used to be 242 pounds. And then I was like, I thought I was buff because I was really strong, you know? And I saw a video of myself. I said, who's that fat guy? Oh, whoa, that's me.
That's me.
Right? And I was like, I got to do something. And I didn't know what to do, right? But I got a George Foreman grill. And I started cutting the fat off chicken breasts with scissors and then putting the chicken on the George Foreman grill. And I would eat that with brown rice. And all of a sudden, I start training martial arts. And then I'm like, dude, in my head, I'm a 200-something pound guy. I'm like, I think I can make 189 pounds to do this grappling tournament. I ended up at that grappling tournament at 159 pounds.
Holy cow.
Right? So I went from 242 to 159, and I've competed as low as 150 now. That's 92 pounds of weight loss, right? And so once you learn any skill, right, that becomes like you have the meta skill of learning how to learn skills, right? So then you can apply that to anything.
Right.
So if we could get people in this country healthier, then we move them off the victim mentality into merit. And then they're like, dude, I can do anything.
Their confidence grows, and the ability to get healthy and change your body physically allows you to think that you can do anything.
Dude, and listen, and you see the enthusiasm you have when you say it? Right?
Oh, yeah.
We're not just saying it. It's like if you're watching and you don't understand how two crazy guys are so enthusiastic about it, it's because this is how good you feel when you do it, bro. Like even if you don't think that I don't know how I could do it. You don't need to know how. You need to just put one foot in front of the other and do the next right action.
Yeah.
One thing that helps me is I've thought to myself, hey, I'm hyped up right now. I want to go to the gym, but there's going to be a day when the couch feels really comfortable.
Yeah.
And I've already made the agreement with myself. I've envisioned myself being comfortable on the couch, sore from a previous workout. Like, fuck, dude, I don't want to go to the gym right now. That's when I'm going to go to the gym. Like I've already made that visualization in my head that I'm going to go on the days where I'm not motivated and the couch is going to be comfortable and I am going to be sore. And I'm going to be like, dude, it's a long drive to the gym. I'll just go tomorrow. And I'm going to have that conversation in my head. I'm going to get up and go anyway.
Hell yeah.
So if anybody's not knowing what to do, start visualizing. I don't want to say the worst case, but like not always being motivated. You know, visualize yourself enjoying a Netflix show and then going, you know what? This isn't helping my life. I'm going to pause this and I'm going to come back in 30 minutes.
Right.
Even if it's walking around the block 5 times or 10 times or whatever. You got a little iPhone, it's a step counter.
Yeah.
Start with 10,000 steps a day. If you can't do 10,000, start with 5,000. Get a George Foreman grill. Cut the fat off the chicken. Eat the rice.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I tell myself anytime that like I'm too sore, I feel tired, I'm like, do I want to have a good day?
Right.
Because if I want to have a good day, I got to go.
Right.
I got to get up and I got to run or I got to work out. And after that, it's all good. It's all good. If I put it off, shit can spiral and roll downhill. But if I nip in the bud, I get the first win out, boom, all good.
Yeah,
good
you sound like you have certain metrics that you've understood over the course of time that lead to a good day.
Right, non-negotiable.
Right, and it's like, for you, it sounds like, let's say, maybe it's running. Or, you know, it's like, hey, I don't care how I feel right now. I know I'm going to feel better after a run. 100, so I'm going to go run. 100%. Right? And it's kind of crazy that over time, two people can come to the same conclusion. For me, I do gratitude, I do grounding, I do a cold plunge every day, right? And then I take my ass to Extreme Couture and I practice. And once I do that, I'm on cloud 9. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is like, I have endorphins popping off in my head. And then all of a sudden you start to get addicted to working out. And then the couch just kind of seems weird. You're like, dude, I've been sitting here for a while. Like I need to get up and get active. Right. Yeah. And your whole biochemistry and brain changes, you know? Yeah. And so as crazy as it sounds, there may be a day in the near future where working out becomes easy to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Free dopamine too.
Free.
It's like drugs.
Right. Yeah. It's better than TikTok. Let's go.
Hell yeah, man. Dude, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I think we could probably easily do another hour.
Yeah.
You know?
We'll do another hour in the future.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Tell everyone how they can follow you, how they can get in contact with you if they're watching this. I know that I'm friends with a lot of promoters back in Texas as well that have different promotions and stuff like that. If they want you to fight, things of that nature, let us know. How can people get a hold of you and what's next?
Yeah, so I am King David MMA on Instagram. I would highly suggest following Fight Circus on Instagram because you're going to see the craziest videos you've ever seen in your life. So make sure to follow them. But in terms of what's next for me, I'm on weight, ready to cut. I'm taking things on short notice. I've fought someone on as short as 36 hours notice. I cut 14 pounds on an airplane, you know, and then I went and scrapped anyway. So I, in a lot of ways, prefer it because I think if I walked outside and there was a fight in the parking lot, I wouldn't be asking the guy like, hey man, do you want to, no, dude, you would fight, right? Like, so I look at it like, you know, if somebody would like to fight and they tell me that they're going to kill me, well, it's like, then kill me then, bro. Yeah. But I'm hard to kill. So I'm ready to go. And yeah, I'm going to make history. I'm looking to do new things. I'm looking to see how far I can push it. And I'm going to ride until the wheels fall off. Let's go.
Hell yeah, let's go. I love your energy, bro. I love that you're here. I'm super happy we were able to connect and become friends, bro.
Yes,
so,
sir.
you know, I love the way your mind works and everything that you're about. So once again, I appreciate it. And let's do it again.
Let's go.
Hell yeah.
All right, brother.
Guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, share it, like, follow, comment. Let me know what you think. But stay tuned. Come back next week for another episode.